Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again this is Jeremy Smith. As you guys know, I haven't been the world's biggest fan of mirrorless cameras. I was a fan of my Sony NEX5N. It was okay for what it was, a nice small secondary camera. However, when it comes to these mirrorless cameras that want to be more serious, I've given them a pretty hard time. I gave the Sony A6300 a pretty hard time because of its ergonomics. And I've probably referred to mirrorless cameras as a toy for a child on more than one occasion. I am kind of an idealist when it comes to cameras. However, now I have my hands on a different mirrorless camera. Today I'm going to be taking a look at this X-T1. Is this a serious camera? Or is it just, well, is it just another toy for a child? Let's find out. Okay guys, so this is something that most people don't know, but Fuji actually has a special place in my heart. Back sometime around 2005, when entry-level DSLRs like a Nikon D50 still cost about $1,300 brand new, I wanted to get myself a more serious camera. Unfortunately, something like that Nikon D50 was out of my price range, so I wanted to get something that gave me some manual controls and so forth that was still digital. So I ended up getting a camera called a Fuji S9000, and that was basically kind of a bridge sort of camera. It had a lens that equaled like a 28 to 200 millimeter, something like that, and it had lots of manual controls, and it kind of looked like a DSLR, although it was a fixed lens camera, and so that gave me a very, very good start. And then once DSLR prices came down, I was able to finally get myself something like a Nikon D80. Or maybe I saved up more money. Anyways, I finally got that. So before Nikon, for me, there was Fuji. And even before that, whenever I was just a kid, my mom had a little Fuji point and shoot camera, and I used to actually shoot with it quite a bit. It's actually this camera right here. Look at that high-tech piece of electronics. So anyways, Fuji holds a very, very special place in my heart. Now, with mirrorless cameras, as you know, I've given them a very, very tough time because a lot of cameras, a lot of cameras like the Sony A6300, you remember how that video went. I mean, the ergonomics for that camera for stills photography, they're just terrible. They're absolutely terrible. I think it's ridiculous that they take that camera seriously. Something like the older NEX7 was a much, much better camera. Now, so you guys don't have to watch the rest of this video, I will tell you, if you do plan on doing a lot of video, I still think cameras like the Sony A6300 are phenomenal for that. But if you're a still photographer, you might actually want to take a look at something a little bit different. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Fuji X-T1. Okay guys, so taking a closer look at the Fuji X-T1, a first impression can mean a lot. Whenever I take a look at the X-T1, I can tell that it means business. It has lots and lots of analog dials. It doesn't have any stupid scene modes. It just has PA, S, and M, and that is perfect as far as I'm concerned. Now, I will tell you guys, I've been giving mirrorless a hard time, but obviously this goes without saying, a lot of it has to do with my intended use of mirrorless, and a lot of it, dare I say, it's based on my personal preferences. Did you guys hear that? Personal preferences. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. For a lot of people, you may be doing video, and that's where I think the Sony A6300, does very, very good. It has 4K video, and by the way, guys, whenever I tested that camera with an external recorder, it didn't overheat nearly as much as it did with the internal recording. I was able to record for like an hour before it overheated. I mean, it was an obscene amount of time before it overheated in 4K. Your mileage may vary on that. However, guys, aside from me making these videos for you, I'm really not much of a videographer. I am a stills photographer primarily. And so I'm looking for a camera that's more stills oriented. And that camera is not the Sony A6300. This camera is quite the opposite from the 6300. This camera has, as I just mentioned, it has a very, very good layout of controls. So I like how on this camera we have all of our shutter speeds up here at the top. We have our exposure compensation. We have our ISO. We even have our metering modes on this lower dial here. So it's very easy to change that. So everything is nice and laid out the way you'd expect it to be. We have our drive modes over here, so we can go between single and continuous, low, and so forth. Now, when it comes to shooting action with this camera, that's another area where the A6300 is going to be better. If you like to shoot action photography, I would definitely recommend the A6300 over this one. As you guys know though, once again, based on my personal preferences, I am not an action photographer. I shoot things that stay still, I shoot portraits, and whenever I'm shooting for fun, you know, I'm not in any hurry. So I don't need speed. I don't want speed. So once again, personal preferences, mine kind of lie with this camera. The other thing I like about this camera is that there are lots and lots of customizable function buttons. This camera has exactly 6 of them to be exact. You have your top button here, your top function button, which by default does Wi-Fi, but you can change that to something else. And then you can customize all 4 of your directional buttons on the back here. And let's see here, what else does that leave? Oh yes, you also have a custom function button up here as well. So you have lots of things that can be customized on this. Now, in terms of customizing the settings on this camera, I find it to be very, very easy. The easiest way to do this on this camera, in my opinion, is just to go ahead and press and hold the function button. So you can press it and hold it, and then it pops up just like that. And you can actually go in here and change this to something. So it's very, very straightforward, and that goes for any of these buttons. So I'll just give this one up here, press and hold. There it goes. You can easily change it. You can also go into your menu and do this too. Let's see, this is always the fun part because I'm always having to film and look for things. Oh yes, I believe it's down here. I have been playing with this camera a lot before making this video. I've been playing with this camera for a couple of months actually. So as you can see here, function setting there. You get this nice little graphic interface of where all the buttons are on the camera, so you can easily see what's what. It's pretty cool. So there's all 6 of our buttons, so you can change up how these operate. I find Fuji's menus to be pretty natural. Sony's menus are terrible, absolutely terrible. Half the time, even the Sony rep can't find something in the camera without like fumbling for 10 or 15 minutes, and we all go on a little scavenger hunt together. Yeah, so this is much, much better. Not quite as well laid out as Nikon or Canon in my opinion. Well, actually I'd say they're probably tied with Canon. Nikon's a little bit better in the menu department, but this is definitely worlds better than Sony. So that's how that works out. In shooting with this camera, the autofocus performance for what I do is pretty accurate. Of course, we're a little bit, there we go. Pretty accurate focus. I have it set up to where this button up here actually changes my focus area. So I give it a little press like that, and then I can easily change my focus point. Go back to shooting, press, change. I found it to be very, very intuitive. I played with this camera's custom functions a lot until I found something that I liked. I programmed this bottom little dial down here because I think by default this bottom dial is actually your focus area, and I didn't care much for that because I had to kind of do a lot of thumb movement there, kind of like on the A6300 and changing things. But here I can maintain a natural shooting position just like that. Give that button a little press, easily change focus area. So very nice. I like how on a lot of these Fuji lenses there is an aperture ring. You can customize dials for certain lenses. You know, like on certain lenses, it gives you a choice between using the ring and using the front dial or the rear dial. On this particular 35mm f2, you have to use the ring, but I don't mind that at all. I like the way it's set up here. And this is another thing too. While Sony and Fuji both make very, very large lenses for their cameras, I like the fact that I do have some smaller ones to choose from that are still very high quality. Most of Sony's smaller crop sensor lenses are not the best quality, like the 16mm 2.8 and the 20mm 2.8 are both a joke. They're tiny little pancakes, but their image quality is terrible. This 35f2 I've been very, very happy with. I tested out Fuji's 35mm 1.4 as well, and I like that lens too. It's a lot larger. I do find that this lens is actually faster focusing, and I prefer the small size. F2 is certainly fast enough. This camera produces very good quality images. I've used it up to 3200 ISO. It's very good there. Even at 1600 ISO, it works out. I mean, 1600 ISO in F2 is enough in most cases. So I find this lens to be my favorite so far. I still need to test out the 23mm. And I've also been playing with the 58mm a little bit for portraits as well, the 58 1.2. And I like that lens a lot also. So we'll be talking about that in more detail later on. I have this camera programmed kind of like a Nikon. The back dial allows me to change my shutter speed right here. And then I have, of course, the aperture ring there. So I find this to be pretty intuitive. You can set this up here to the T setting, and then you can use your shutter speed adjustment on the back, aperture adjustment on the front, and no finger gymnastics necessary when changing these settings. So very, very nice. One other thing too that I was pleasantly surprised by is that it is possible to change the behavior of the spot metering system. Let me show you guys what I mean here. Whenever we go into our menu, it is called something weird, so it's going to take me a second to find it. Let's see here. Essentially, it's possible to set this up to where it behaves like a Nikon in the sense that the spot meter follows the focus point. There it is. It's called interlock spot AE and focus area, which is a really bizarre way of saying it, but if you have this turned on, whenever you are in spot metering mode, the spot meter will actually follow the focus point, and it won't just remain in the center of the frame like it does on Sony and Canon, and I hate that. But on this camera, it's possible to set it up like a Nikon where the spot meter follows the focus point. So perfect, absolute perfect setup. Even an iPhone does that. Why a Canon and why Sony doesn't is beyond me in 2016. Maybe they'll change it in the future. The other thing about this camera is it's actually inspired me to shoot JPEG a little bit. Well, actually, I shot JPEG plus RAW, but I did like it because this camera has some really good film simulation options. I was very, very happy with its black and white options. I've been shooting with it a little bit. I shot in JPEG plus RAW so I could have the JPEG file transferred immediately over to my smartphone and then be able to post things, on Instagram and so forth. So it worked out very, very well for that. And then of course I still had the RAW files. The images out of this camera in JPEG are outstanding. So for just walking around photography, just average day-to-day stuff, I don't have a problem testing out the JPEG some. For me, whenever I'm using a big heavy DSLR, it's because I'm getting paid to carry it around. On a daily basis, I don't want to carry heavy things around. Just if I want to go out and take photographs for fun, it's nice to be able to carry something small and light like this camera. And yeah, shooting JPEG from this can be good as well. Although I still shoot JPEG plus RAW, because anyways. So that works out very well there. I love the black and white settings on this camera a lot. I'll put a link to the samples in the description for you guys. So all in all, pretty good camera. It does have a moving screen, kind of the sideways tilting type, pretty much exactly like the Sony's. Very, very nice there. We have a single SD card slot over on the side. If I had to change anything about this camera, it would be this door. Yes, guys, I know I have a thing for doors, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. Good news is, though, the rest of the camera feels solid. It does have weather sealing. All these dials are metal. I've been impressed with Fuji's lens quality as well. This lens it's not plastic. See, sounds like an old school one. It's nice and solid in metal as well. Very, very, very nice setup here. Very solid feeling camera. Lots of mechanical controls. There's even a PC sync up here. Kind of full nostalgia. This camera comes with a small little flash, although I haven't tried it. The viewfinder on this camera is also extremely, extremely large, which is a good thing, you know, for a guy like me that wears glasses. It's actually so large that you can actually customize its display. Let's see here, let me show you guys this. You can actually go through different display options. If you're shooting in your viewfinder, though, you can actually have a side-by-side sort of option where you can basically show the entire image on one side, and then on the opposite side you can show a zoomed-in view for your manual focusing. Very, very nice. You can even change the size of the display between two different sizes. You can make it fill the entire frame, or you can constrain it more towards the middle, you know, if you you know, can't quite get your eye close enough if you wear glasses or something. So lots of customization there. I'm still not the world's biggest fan of electronic viewfinders, but of course on this size camera it's a necessary evil. I don't mind it so much. On this one, you know, because it's so large and it's very high resolution, it's not doesn't seem to have a whole lot of lag unless you're in very, very low light. Seeing as how the rest of the camera functions well, you know, I can live with the electronic viewfinder. It's necessary, obviously, to make this camera this small. My goodness, what else? Oh, yes. One other thing I'll show you guys is the focus assist. And I think that will pretty much wrap us up for the time being. Okay, so we are on manual focus now. Whenever we start to focus on this camera, of course, I like how we have a little display at the bottom to tell us where our focus distance is, which is kind of cool. But you can also, in addition to doing focus peaking, it's actually possible to do like a split screen sort of focus thing as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's not something that you see, it's not anything that I've ever seen on any other camera before. While I'm looking for this, one other thing too that I know you guys are going to ask me about is going to be the Fuji X-T2 that's been announced. Now, that camera looks like it's going to bring a lot of interesting things to the table. I think it may actually be able to beat the A6300 in terms of action photography. Probably not in video. But yes, guys, I'm aware of the X-T2 and we'll definitely be taking a look at that whenever it comes out. As you can see though, digital split image. We can do our focus peaking. I'm going to show you guys this digital split image though, because it's pretty unique on this camera. So you can see, let's see here. Focus that camera, okay. So you can see basically what happens is whenever I start to manual focus, it basically gives us a digital version of a old school split prism. You guys have no idea how much fun I had using this. I mean, it was pretty awesome actually. I much preferred it to focus peaking. Yeah, so pretty cool setup. This camera does have a mechanical shutter, as you can tell. I have it set up to where this bottom button right here actually can change between those options. So you actually can put it on electronic and get a completely silent sound out of it, which is nice. So all in all, pretty solid camera. I know this video has been a little bit longer than usual because, hey guys, we had a completely new camera system to look at. This is not, you know, I had to go over a lot of the things that we've never seen before that are unique to Fuji. I probably missed something. If you have questions, write me in the comments below. We'll definitely be taking a look at more Fuji models in the future. And dare I say it, I think I might actually have found a mirrorless system that I actually like for a change. Anyways, guys, don't forget to follow me on all popular social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all that fun stuff. Be sure to check out Snapchat because that's where I like to post lots and lots of things that I am testing. I've definitely posted lots of information about this camera over the past few months, even though we're just now taking a look at it. So be sure to check out my Snapchat. Everywhere I am known as Photog J the Great. Anyways, guys, until next time, this is Jeremy Smith, Signing off.